Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today you are stepping into a zone of communication elevation. I want you to feel it. The stage is set, the microphone is live, the spotlight is on you. Because the only person who can change your voice, your impact, your legacy is you. We're here to do more than talk. We're here to rank, to refine, to own every tip that takes you from ordinary speaker to dominant communicator. Because when you speak, you're not just making sounds. You're forging connections, you're leaving impressions, you're building legacy. So sit up straight, breathe deep, and receive this. You're about to uncover the ultimate order of public speaking and communication tips, so that when you walk off stage, when you press record on your next video, when you face one person in front of you or an audience of thousands, you do not just speak, you move every person who's ever stood in front of an audience, whether it's a crowd of thousands or a single listener, has felt that pulse of uncertainty run through their body. The trembling hands, the shallow breath, the voice that cracks not because you don't know what to say, but because somewhere inside you doubt that what you're saying matters. That's where the battle truly begins. The stage doesn't test your technique first, it tests your mindset, because before your words ever carry power, your belief must. Mindset first, mechanics second. That's the order most people get wrong. They chase the perfect posture, the flawless diction, the ideal hand gesture. They study structure before substance, delivery before conviction, but mechanics alone don't move people. Mindset does. The truth is, when you step onto that stage, your audience doesn't need perfection. They crave connection. They don't remember how straight you stood or how wide your gestures were. They remember the fire in your tone, the truth behind your story, and the energy that made them feel alive. You can teach someone how to pause for effect, how to use storytelling arcs, how to modulate their tone, but you cannot teach authenticity until they believe in what they're saying, and belief isn't mechanical, it's mental. It's rooted in the identity you carry before the lights ever turn on. The mindset of a communicator is built long before the moment of communication. It's born in silence, in the repetition of preparation, in the resilience built from failure, and in the courage to stand tall even after being misunderstood. So what is the mindset that comes first? It's the unshakable conviction that your message holds weight, that your story, your lesson, your voice, it matters. That conviction gives rise to energy, and energy gives rise to connection. Without it, all your mechanics will sound rehearsed, hollow, forgettable. But with it, even the simplest sentence can transform lives. Mindset first means you speak with intention, not insecurity. It means when you open your mouth, you're not chasing approval, you're delivering impact. It means you're not focused on whether they like you, but whether they feel you. Because when your focus shifts from fear to purpose, from performance to presence, you begin to communicate with power. Mechanics can amplify that power, but they can never replace it. The greatest communicators on earth weren't always the most polished. They were the most present. Their energy commanded attention before their words ever did. That's because they didn't rely on technique to validate their worth. They used mindset to expand their presence. They believed at their core that what they had to share was too important to be silenced by fear. They didn't speak to impress, they spoke to influence. They didn't speak to fill space, they spoke to awaken something inside others. You must anchor yourself in that same belief, because when you step on stage without the right mindset, even the best mechanics crumble under pressure. But when you carry conviction in your spirit, the audience forgives your flaws. They don't see the stumble, they see the strength. They don't notice the imperfect phrasing. They feel the authenticity. That's the difference between someone who performs and someone who moves people. The mindset that precedes mechanics is a blend of purpose, humility, and certainty. Purpose gives direction. Humility keeps your ego silent so your message can speak louder. Certainty gives your delivery gravity. It makes every word feel like it belongs. When those three merge, you stop communicating as a person trying to be impressive, and you start communicating as a person who has something worth hearing. If you've ever wondered why some people seem magnetic when they talk, it's not because of perfect training, it's because they radiate alignment, their message matches their identity, they're not trying to sound like anyone else. They've stopped rehearsing other people's voices and started refining their own. That's what mindset does, it liberates you from imitation. Because when you speak from conviction, people stop comparing you to others. They start remembering you. So before you practice another speech, before you watch another tutorial on how to stand or move or gesture, look inward. Ask yourself, do I believe in what I'm saying? Would I still speak it if no one clapped, no one liked, no one followed? Because if your answer is yes, then you've already won the first battle. Mechanics will refine you, but mindset defines you. And when you've built that foundation, every gesture, every pause, every word becomes an extension of your inner strength, not a performance, but a projection of purpose. Remember this, your message doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be true. Your audience doesn't need a performer. They need a leader. And a leader doesn't rely on mechanics to sound powerful. They rely on mindset to be powerful. So the next time you step on that stage, don't chase applause, chase impact. Don't rehearse perfection, rehearse belief. Because once your mindset is right, the mechanics will follow. And when they do, your words won't just be heard. They'll be felt. Every tip has a rank and a reason. That's the truth most people never slow down long enough to understand. They collect advice like trophies, stacking one technique on top of another, chasing every secret, every strategy, every must-do that promises to turn them into a world-class communicator. But the problem isn't a lack of information, it's the lack of order, because not every tip carries the same weight. Some tips refine your delivery, others redefine your purpose. Some change how you speak, others change why you speak. And if you can't distinguish the difference, you'll keep rehearsing things that never move the needle. When you begin to rank your communication principles, you start separating the noise from the power. You start realizing that not every technique deserves equal attention. There's a hierarchy, a rhythm. To what truly transforms you, you can't master body language before mastering clarity. You can't perfect tone before perfecting intention. You can't focus on storytelling before you understand what story is worth telling. Each tip has its place, its season, its impact. And when you learn to rank them by importance, you stop running in circles and start walking with direction. Ranking isn't about judgment, it's about precision. It's about understanding that every skill you build should have a purpose that feeds into your message, your brand, your identity as a communicator. Think of it like a pyramid. The base isn't flashy, but it carries everything above it. If your foundation is weak, if your mindset, authenticity, and purpose aren't aligned, then every tip that sits on top will eventually collapse. But when the base is strong, every layer you add multiplies your impact. The first rank always belongs to clarity, because no matter how confident you sound, if people can't understand what you're saying, you've already lost them. Clarity isn't about using simple words, it's about building simple meaning. When you know exactly what you stand for, your message cuts through noise like a blade through silk. The second rank goes to confidence, because clarity without confidence is a whisper in a hurricane. People don't follow words, they follow certainty. When you speak with conviction, you give your audience permission to believe. Then comes connection, the bridge between you and them. You can have confidence and clarity, but without connection, it all feels mechanical. Connection happens when your message stops being about you and starts being about them. That's when empathy replaces ego. That's when communication becomes transformation. And only after those three are built, clarity, confidence, connection, do mechanics begin to matter. Your gestures, pauses, tone, and rhythm, they amplify, but they never replace the substance beneath them. Every tip you hear, every piece of advice you get, must earn its place in your ranking. Ask yourself, does this strengthen my foundation or just decorate it? Does this bring me closer to impact, or does it distract me with polish? Because too many communicators chase polish and forget purpose. They learn how to sound like professionals, but lose the sound of their own truth. The goal isn't to sound like everyone else, it's to stand out by sounding real. The reason every tip has a rank is because your growth is not linear, it's layered. When you master what truly matters first, every other skill becomes easier to execute. But when you start from the top, trying to perfect advanced tactics without mastering the fundamentals, you end up building a castle on sand. Ranking teaches you patience. It teaches you to value depth over speed, mastery over mimicry. It reminds you that greatness is built step by step, not all at once. There's also a reason behind the rank. Each tip carries a different kind of power. Some tips transform perception, how others see you. Others transform presence, how you see yourself. The most dangerous mistake is treating both the same. For example, learning how to pause before a key phrase might make your speech sound more powerful, but learning how to believe that your words carry weight makes your speech unforgettable. The first is a trick. The second is transformation, and this is what separates those who speak for attention from those who speak for legacy. The ones who understand the ranking system don't chase every hack, they chase alignment. They master one level completely before moving to the next. They don't scatter their energy, they stack it. That's why they sound natural while others sound forced. That's why their message feels alive, not rehearsed. Every rank has a reason, because communication isn't just about speaking. It's about evolving. Each level prepares you for the next. When you learn clarity, you earn the right to express confidence. When you learn confidence, you earn the power to connect. When you master connection, you unlock influence, and influence, that's the ultimate rank. That's when your voice starts to shift hearts, redirect perspectives, and inspire change long after the applause ends. So don't rush to collect tips. Rank them, respect them, understand why they exist and where they belong in your growth. Because the truth is, not everything you learn deserves your focus right now. Focus on what builds your base, not what feeds your ego. Focus on what strengthens your impact, not what decorates your performance. When you start ranking your communication tips by purpose and power, you stop chasing every next shiny secret, and you start mastering yourself. And when you master yourself, every word, every pause, every moment on stage becomes intentional. That's when your message stops sounding practiced and starts sounding powerful. That's when your audience doesn't just hear you, they feel you. And that's when you realize the real reason behind the ranking, because your growth deserves structure, and your voice deserves legacy. Clarity plus confidence equals connection. It sounds simple, but it's the foundation of every unforgettable communicator. Every leader, every speaker, every person who's ever captured a room knows this formula by heart. Because without clarity, your words scatter. Without confidence, your message collapses. And without connection, nothing you say truly lands. The magic happens only when those three elements move in harmony. When what you say is clear, how you say it is confident, and why you say it resonates deeply with the person listening. Clarity is where communication begins. It's not just about choosing the right words, it's about stripping away everything unnecessary until only the truth remains. When you speak with clarity, people don't have to guess what you mean, they feel it. You're not hiding behind jargon or performance, you're presenting ideas in a way that pierces through confusion. Clarity is power because it reveals that you know exactly what you stand for. People don't follow uncertainty, they follow direction. They follow someone who can say in one sentence what others can't explain in 10. But clarity alone isn't enough. You can be clear and still be overlooked if you lack confidence. Confidence is the amplifier of your message. It's the unspoken signal that tells your audience, I believe in this. You see, confidence isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's the moment when your words, your tone, and your presence are all saying the same thing. It's when your body language matches your belief. It's when you stop performing and start owning. Because when you own your message, people don't just listen, they lean in. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you've learned how to channel fear into focus. You don't eliminate nerves. You harness them, you convert that energy into expression. Confidence grows from preparation, repetition, and purpose. You've studied your message, lived your message, and earned the right to deliver it. That's why when you speak, you don't sound rehearsed. You sound real, because confidence is what allows authenticity to breathe through structure. Now, when clarity and confidence come together, something extraordinary happens, connection. That's the spark that turns communication into transformation. Connection is when your words stop being just sounds and start becoming experiences. It's when the person listening feels understood, not just spoken to. It's when your message shifts from being about you to being about them. That's the moment communication transcends performance. It becomes legacy. Connection isn't built through tricks or manipulation. It's built through alignment. When your clarity gives direction and your confidence gives conviction, people can trust you, and trust is the soil where connection grows. Because no matter how beautiful your message is, if the audience doesn't trust you, they won't let it in. But when they feel your authenticity, when they sense that your words and your intentions are one, they open up. They don't just hear you, they feel you. The best speakers in the world don't rely on fancy vocabulary or perfect diction. They rely on presence. They rely on the way clarity cuts through noise and confidence anchors the moment. That combination creates energy, an invisible bridge between you and the audience. Every pause, every tone shift, every word lands because it carries conviction. And when that conviction is clear, the audience begins to mirror your belief. They start to see what you see, feel what you feel. That's real influence. Clarity and confidence are like two sides of a coin. You can't have one without the other if you want real connection. Too much clarity without confidence feels flat, accurate but uninspiring. Too much confidence without clarity feels loud and energetic but empty, but together they form the perfect balance. Your message is simple, your delivery is strong, and your impact is unforgettable. That's when people don't just remember your words, they remember how your words made them feel. The equation is simple, but the execution takes discipline. You earn clarity through reflection. By knowing exactly what you want to communicate and why it matters. You earn confidence through repetition. By putting yourself in the arena again and again until your voice and your purpose align. And when you earn both, connection becomes effortless. You don't chase attention anymore. Attention comes to you. Connection is the reward of honest communication. It's the proof that your clarity was understood and your confidence was felt. It's when people nod not because they agree, but because they relate. They see themselves in your story. They hear their own fears, dreams, and experiences reflected in your words. That's when you're not just speaking to them, you're speaking for them. This formula, clarity plus confidence equals connection, isn't just for the stage. It's for every conversation that matters. It's for the business pitch, the team meeting, the family discussion, the moment you need to speak truth into chaos. Every time you communicate, you're either building a bridge or burning one. Clarity builds the structure, confidence strengthens it, connection allows others to cross it. So the next time you speak, don't just focus on being heard. Focus on being felt. Simplify your message until it's undeniable. Stand behind it until it's unshakable. Deliver it until it's unforgettable. Because when your clarity slices through confusion and your confidence radiates through your presence, connection isn't something you chase. It's something you create. That's the art and science of communication at its highest level. That's when you stop talking to an audience and start speaking to humanity. That's when your message becomes more than words. It becomes a mirror that reflects truth, courage, and impact. Clarity plus confidence equals connection. And when you master that, your voice doesn't just reach ears. It reaches hearts. Every great communicator understands one truth. The message isn't about you, it's about the audience. The moment you realize that, everything changes, your tone changes, your structure changes. Your presence changes, because when you stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be impactful, you begin to speak from a place that actually moves people. That's the heart of audience-centric communication. It's not just about what you want to say, it's about what they need to hear. Most people approach communication backwards. They start from self. What they want to express, what they want to prove, how they want to be seen. But the real mastery begins when you shift focus from self-expression to audience transformation. Your purpose isn't to fill time with words, it's to fill minds with value. It's not about how well you perform, it's about how deeply they receive. The audience is your compass. Everything you say should be guided by who they are, where they are, and what they need in that moment. If you don't know them, you can't serve them. If you can't feel them, you can't move them. Great communicators don't speak at people, they speak into people. They understand the emotional landscape of the room, the unspoken fears, the quiet doubts, the hidden hopes, and they tailor their message to meet those emotions head on. Audience-centric communication begins with empathy. You have to care enough to listen before you speak. You have to observe what they value, how they think, what they've experienced. Because when your audience feels seen, they start to trust you. And trust is the foundation of influence. You can't change what someone believes if they don't believe you understand them. Empathy is what turns information into impact. Facts might capture the mind, but empathy captures the heart. And when you can speak both to the intellect and to the emotion, your message doesn't just inform, it transforms. You stop being a speaker and become a bridge between what people currently believe and what they could believe. Between who they are and who they could become, the audience should feel like the hero of the story you're telling. Too many speakers make themselves the hero. They talk about their wins, their lessons, their success. But the best communicators reposition themselves as the guide. You're not there to say, look what I did. You're there to say, here's how you can do it too. That shift changes everything, because the audience isn't inspired by your perfection. They're inspired by your relevance. When they can see themselves in your journey, they begin to believe change is possible for them too. Audience-centric communication also demands flexibility. You can't script connection. You can prepare, you can structure, but you must remain sensitive to the energy in the room. If they're quiet, draw them in. If they're energized, ride that momentum. If they look lost, slow down and clarify. Communication isn't a performance, it's a partnership, and your audience will always guide the direction if you're willing to listen with your intuition, not just your ears. This style of communication requires humility. You must be willing to let go of the need to sound smart, polished, or perfect. The goal isn't to impress them, it's to reach them. That means sometimes you'll have to simplify instead of complicate. Sometimes you'll have to pause instead of push. Sometimes you'll have to meet them at their level before you can lead them higher. Real power in communication doesn't come from dominance, it comes from understanding. When you truly make your communication audience-centric, you start crafting messages differently. You stop asking, what do I want to say, and start asking, what do they need to feel? You start structuring your words around their perspective. You begin every story with relevance, every example with meaning, every point with purpose, because every sentence either brings them closer or pushes them away. Think about the speakers who changed your life. It wasn't just their vocabulary or their style. It was that they spoke to you, they saw you through their message, they articulated something you had felt but never been able to say. That's the art of audience-centric communication. You give voice to what others silently feel. You don't just deliver a message, you deliver their message back to them with clarity and courage. When you speak for the audience, something powerful happens. You stop chasing attention and start earning influence. People don't just hear your words, they carry them long after you've left the room. They quote you not because you were clever, but because you made them feel understood. That's how trust turns into transformation. The highest level of communication is not when they applaud, it's when they apply. When your message lives beyond the moment, when it starts to create change in the way people think, feel, and act, that's the mark of a communicator who truly centered the audience. That's legacy-level speaking. So before every stage, every camera, every conversation, remind yourself, it's not about me, it's about them. What do they need to believe? What do they need to feel? What do they need to take away from this moment? When you start every message with those questions, you become a communicator who doesn't just speak. You serve, and service is the most powerful form of influence. Because in the end, the goal isn't to be remembered for how well you spoke. It's to be remembered for how deeply you made others feel seen, heard, and valued. That's what audience-centric communication is all about. It's not about standing in the spotlight. It's about shining that light on others. And when you do that, you don't just build connection, you build legacy. Every communicator reaches a crossroads, the point where knowledge no longer moves them forward. They've read the books, watched the talks, memorized the strategies, yet still feel stuck. That's the trap of theory. It feels productive, but it's passive. It gives you the illusion of growth without demanding the discipline of execution. The truth is, transformation doesn't come from what you know. It comes from what you do with what you know. Action over theory. That's the separator between those who talk about mastery and those who live it. Theory is safe. It keeps you in the comfort of ideas, the world where everything makes sense and nothing can go wrong. But the stage, the real world, doesn't reward theory. It rewards application. You can study communication for years, analyze body language, perfect scripts, and memorize every principle. But until you stand up, speak up, and show up, you'll never experience growth. Growth is built in motion. Confidence is earned through action. Action forces you to face truth. It strips away illusions and tests your understanding in real time. You might think you've mastered your message until you deliver it in front of people and feel their silence instead of their applause. That's where real learning begins. That's where theory gets exposed. Because the difference between a communicator and a commentator is this: one acts, the other analyzes. One steps into the arena, the other critiques from the sidelines. Action is the great equalizer. It doesn't care how much you know, it only reveals how much you've practiced. Every mistake becomes data, every repetition becomes refinement. You can't fake consistency, you can't fake presence. The people who dominate in communication aren't necessarily the most talented. They are the most tested. They've failed more times in public than others have even tried in private, and that's why their message hits deeper. They've earned it through experience, not theory. The truth is, your first speech will never be perfect. Your delivery will shake, your timing will slip, your words might stumble, but none of that matters if you're in motion. Because every action teaches you something theory never could, how it feels. You can read about how to pause effectively, but until you pause in front of an audience and feel that silence work for you, it's just information. You can study how to build confidence, but until you stand on a stage despite your fear, it's just philosophy. Action gives theory breath. The people who change the game aren't those who know everything. They're the ones who execute something. They move while others hesitate. They take the imperfect first step and learn on the way. They don't wait for permission, for certainty, or for the right time. They act, they adjust, they advance, because action creates clarity. The more you move, the more you understand. The more you hesitate, the more confused you become. Motion builds momentum, and momentum builds mastery. The reason most communicators stay average isn't because they lack talent, it's because they refuse to leave the laboratory of theory. They overthink every line, every gesture, every scenario. But overthinking is the enemy of presence. You don't become magnetic by memorizing. You become magnetic by embodying, and embodiment only happens through repetition. When you act enough times, your skill becomes instinct. You stop performing and start expressing. Action over theory also means choosing courage over perfection. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never feel completely ready. But the ones who win are the ones who start anyway. Every great communicator you admire began messy. They stumbled, they forgot lines, they froze on stage. But they kept going, and that persistence became precision. You cannot master what you're not willing to practice under pressure. Theory feels impressive, but it doesn't move lives. Action does. A single moment of application has more impact than 1,000 hours of contemplation. You could read about empathy, but it won't make you compassionate until you listen to someone's story. You could study storytelling, but you won't master it until you tell a story that moves people. You could memorize tips on confidence, but you won't feel confident until you stand in your fear and speak anyway. Action humbles you, it forces you to confront what's real, it teaches you patience, resilience, and adaptability, qualities no textbook can offer. Every action refines your intuition, every repetition polishes your instincts. And the more you act, the less you depend on theory. You stop needing scripts because your experience becomes your guide. If you want to grow as a communicator, commit to the reps. Get on more stages. Speak in more rooms, record more videos, initiate more conversations. Every attempt, no matter how small, compounds into skill. The path to mastery is paved with action, not analysis. You learn fastest when failure becomes feedback. Action over theory is more than a mindset, it's a lifestyle. It's choosing progress over perfection, movement over waiting, courage over comfort. It's about realizing that the lessons that matter most can't be read, they have to be lived. Every time you take action, you move closer to authenticity, because action burns away fear, ego, and pretense, leaving only truth. The legacy you build won't come from what you studied, it'll come from what you did. So stop planning your next perfect speech, deliver it. Stop writing endless notes on how to connect. Connect. Stop waiting until you feel ready. You'll feel ready the moment you act, because action transforms theory into power and power into presence. You can spend your life learning how to communicate, or you can spend your life communicating. The difference is action, and when you choose action, you stop living in potential and start living in purpose. That's when your words stop sounding rehearsed and start sounding real. That's when communication stops being a skill and becomes a force. So here's what I want you to walk away with. You have a ranked roadmap now, 10 pillars of speaking and communication mastery. But far more than that, you have a mindset. You're no longer an aspiring speaker. You're a communicator who took control of their voice, their message, their presence. From the moment you choose to take action, the world around you shifts. When you step on stage, hit record, walk into a meeting, you're not just delivering content, you're delivering impact. You're not just telling them, you're moving them. Remember, the best speeches don't just end when you stop talking. They echo, they ripple, they change behavior, they create legacy. And now with these ranked tips, you hold the blueprint. Go, speak, connect, transform, and make sure your voice echoes not just in rooms, but in lives. Because you're not just talking, you're building legacy. Thank you.